Hello, all you viewers at home. Tell me, are you tired of your dull viewing experiences?
Yes?
Yeah.
Are you tired of seeing the same old thing over and over again from over, I don't know, 20 years ago? Are you ready for something fresh and new?
Yeah, I
Maybe?
think I am. Yeah.
Well, have we got a show for you today? It's background noise. Okay, that's less
Aw.
80s infomercial and more, what is it, MLG Pro with air horns. Anyway, welcome once again to this episode of Background Noise, where we are heading once again back in time, not back to the future, to Stranger Things by the iconic Duffer Brothers for Stranger Things season 3. As you know, I am your host, Joseph.
Jack.
And I'm Joe.
All right, and yeah, today uh we're gonna be going over Stranger Things. This is was it part 3 of is it the one that's coming up, number 4? That's gonna be the last, or is it okay?
No, I think 5's gonna be the last.
Oh, there's going to be a 5th.
Oh, great.
Okay, well, we're halfway there then, everybody. Part 3 of 5 in this series that we're going to look at. But before we do have a couple of announcements. First of all, well, pretty much we took off Memorial Day. I hope everyone enjoyed. Of course,
not having to listen to us for a week.
Yeah, exactly.
That was a courtesy.
Exactly. And while you were off having fun, we were off preparing, studying the ways of the Stranger Things, if you will. And, well, pretty much we've got that. And we've also got, well, it's a new month now. So we've also got the picks of the month between the three of us of just things we've read, watched, listened, yada, yada, as recommendations that are going up on all the social media channels via, Jack and Joe and all that.
Yes, Jack and Joe are the social media channels.
Yep, we're the platform.
We are the...
Now, all right, yeah, let's hold on. Okay, that one's noted. That one's noted at 550. Okay, let's check it out. Let's check it out, everyone. Okay, and 3, 2, 1. All right, now that we've gotten through those announcements, how about we dive into the stranger things? I was gonna say, okay, season 1 Stranger, seasons 2 Stranger. So this is Stranger things.
Are we not at Strangest Things yet?
I thought it's Strangerest.
Strangerest things. I don't know. Is that
yeah?
Either way,
it'd be Stranger, Strangest, Strangerest would be 3, and Strangestest would be 4. So we're at Strangerest Things. Yeah.
Very scientific. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I love to serve, so that's what I bring to the team. I also bring plot synopsises, so I will do my best to cover all of the nonsense going on in here. We've got... I feel like this season, because we, like every season, we've done the different plots going on with different groups of characters, but I feel like this time those plots are those groups of characters are very different. Like we saw some shifting in who the groups were in season 2, and that carries over here. So, for example, I just blanked on the character's name. Who's the guy who's with the radio who's working with Steve and Robin? Who's the kid? Which kid is that?
Dustin.
Dustin, thank you.
Yep.
I knew it started with a D. I was going to call him Duncan. I should have just done that and just gone with it. Dustin had got back from summer camp where he apparently got himself a girlfriend. He tried to call her on his fancy radio thing and instead intercepts a secret Russian communication and decides to take that to Steve and Robin, who are working at an ice cream shop over the summer, because obviously what else would you be doing as a teenager in the 80s? Obviously you're working at an ice cream shop. And so the three of them are working to try to decode the message, and then when they figure out that the message relates to a secret Russian base that is in the mall that they're working at, they're trying to go and figure out how to get inside the base. They end up bringing in a couple other characters as well, namely Erica, who's actually the younger sister of Lucas, one of the other 4 boys. And then they get caught and shenanigans ensue in there, and this ends up being brought back in the last episode full circle. But those three are basically a story all by themselves that is not at all connected, other than the fact that the Russian base is causing all of the other problems, because what the Russians are doing is they're trying to open another gateway like what L created in season 1 and then closed in season 2. And because they're opening another gateway, the Mind Flayer is back, and he basically like sprouts out a little blobby version of himself that starts infecting rats, basically, and then uses the rats to make a Frankenstein abomination body for himself,
Makes
and then
himself
starts
a meat suit.
yeah, literally, he literally makes himself a robot suit made out of meat and bones and sinew and everything else, right? And then, so the other characters are kind of dealing with various things related to that. So we've got Hopper and Joyce, who are trying to investigate just weird things that are going, like they're always investigating weird things that are going around town that happens to loop back in. And then they find out about the Russians, but they don't actually find out about the base. And so they're getting chased down by Russian
Terminator.
Yeah, they get chased. Yeah, basically, that's exactly correct. And they end up picking up one of the Russian scientists and figuring out that the gate is being opened, and they figure out how they need to close it. And then that loops back into the final episode and the conclusion. We also have Nancy and Jonathan, who are working at a newspaper, and they investigate the story about weird rats, quote unquote, which are the rats that have been infected by the Mind Flayer, who then infect the woman who reported the story. And so that's how they get wrapped up into things. By them pursuing that story, they find out that more and more weird stuff is happening, right? We also have the annoying side story about, like, I understand why it was done, but it still frustrates me that, like, Elle and Mike were in a healthy, I don't know if healthy, they're kids, they're like 12 years old. So they were in a semi-stable relationship for teenagers, which then gets broken up for the plot reasons so that Elle and Max can go and investigate Billy, Max's older brother, who's also one of the infected, and they could figure things out from that. Whereas Mike, Lucas, and Will are doing something. I don't actually remember what they're doing. I feel like most of the time they're just complaining about Elle.
Yeah, I was gonna say
they're just moping.
To figure out
mostly.
how to, they're trying to get back to their girls or something, and then Will's just like, "Listen, I've been gone for like 2 years. Can we just do something normal?"
Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much what those three are doing most of the time. They touch on everyone else's stories every so often, and then obviously at the end, when all the threads are tied back together, when they realize, oh, we know that the Russians are opening gate. Oh, yeah, well, we know how to get down to the base where the Russians are. Oh, well, we know the problem that the Russians are causing, which is the fact that there's this giant monster made out of dead people parts running around killing things, and also specifically hates Elle, obviously, because she has telekinesis and it's the only thing that can stop it. And so this all culminates in the Battle of Starcourt Mall. I think that's what the final episode is called, where the Hopper, Joyce, and also weird Murray. I was just gonna say weird journalist guy, but Murray is technically his name. Those three are down at the base, shutting things down. The kids are up in the mall, fighting off the monster, not actually able to defeat it. It's only defeated because they close the gate, and then it loses its connection to the Mind Flayer. And also and the reason the kids don't defeat the Mind Flayer is because Elle loses her powers very inconveniently, but also conveniently for the plot and creating tension. And then we kind of resolve with Hopper is you would assume that he died shutting down the gate because he was right next to the thing when it exploded. But I think it's heavily implied in this season that he got teleported into Russia, and I think that's where we are at in season 4, but we're not there yet, is that he got teleported into Russia. Joyce adopts Elle because obviously she doesn't have Hopper anymore, and everyone else is kind of going about their lives in their own different directions. And it's very much feels like everyone's breaking up and going their separate ways kind of thing. So I think that's all the major details. Obviously there's a lot of minor details that we'll get into. I think that's the major outline.
Yeah, watch the show for the gritty details.
Well, yeah, obviously.
That it's just kind of a funny thing I want to bring up. It's not really linked to any specific part, but it's like, talking about Hopper, it's like, yeah, it's heavily implied that he's alive at the very end of this, but then, like looking back, what is it? We're watching this 3 years at least I'm watching it 3 years after it came out, and it's just like, oh man, it was even on like mainstream news, like CBS in the morning or whatever it was, about like, oh yeah, Stranger Things season 4 teaser, Hopper's alive, and it's just like, well, guess that's what I get for not watching it. And it's
right.
just like, yeah, it's just with time, all these big almost final story beats, just like, we're good. It's he's back.
Yeah, they weren't going to wait to surprise us with that, unless of course, you didn't watch the teasers. But they were not trying to wait to let you know. Yeah, Hopper's okay.
I mean, they have a kind of an MCU style end credit scene, right, where they have in a Russian base, and they say, no, not the American, and like the obvious implication is that it's Hopper. They don't show you Hopper, but
Jim Hopper will return in Stranger
Things. That would have been awesome.
Oh no.
That would have been great. I would have loved to see that. Yeah.
Where to begin? There's just so many things. Well, Joe, you were about to begin before I cut you off. Sorry.
Well, I was going to begin at the ending, although we want to work our way through these things sequentially. But it does feel this season felt like it was intended to be the end for several reasons. One, because we have these like notes of finality with the different characters who have, it's the end of summer. Basically, all these characters are splitting up and going their separate ways. The Byers are moving out of town, so they're taking Will and Jonathan with them. Mm-hmm. And Nancy's grown up and she's going to go off to college. And Steve is grown up and maybe he's going to do something with his life. We don't know. And we've got obviously the 3 other boys and Max are still going to be going to high school, but they're not. Will isn't there. Like the group is dissembled now.
Right.
And Hopper is presumed to be dead, and Elle loses her powers, right? So that seems like, okay, we've brought everything to the close. She's no longer this weird person who's separate from everyone else because she has these abilities. She's now just a normal person. Mm-hmm. She can go live the rest of her life in a relatively ordinary, boring way, right? That seems like what they're just setting up there. That seems like not even setting up. That seems like there's this note of finality to it. Except there isn't. So, and it's a little bit frustrating. I don't know if you guys have that same opinion.
I mean, I can't remember if we mentioned this in season 2 when we did that episode. I loved how season 2 ended. I was very pleased with how it ended when it first came out, and I watched it. They set it up so they could do another season, but if they'd ended it just there, they'd wrapped up a lot of the plot points from season 1. I was very happy with how that ended because we still had our main character's still alive. Yeah, we had a character die like Bob and maybe 1 or 2 others, but overall we had our core. They were mostly together. Things were going to be okay. Then we get this, and it's like, well, now everyone's splitting up. Will has just in general been dealt a very bad hand. You kind of feel bad for the guy because he gets lost in season 1. He gets basically turned into a monster in season 2. And season 3 is like, yeah, so I really wasn't all here for the first 2 seasons. So I love if we could just go back to the D&D days. And they're like, nah, girls are more fun. D&D don't really care anymore. And so Will's just not buying that. They've all moved on without him, basically. And so you really feel bad for him. And then at the end of season 3, they move him away from them. It doesn't look like, he's kind of alone again.
Yep.
Geez, Will, what are you, 10? I want to be. I didn't get a chance to be.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it is understandable, right? He's lost even, I don't know exactly how much time he was in the Upside Down and how much time he was infected by the Mind Flayer. But even without that, there's the time in between, right, where he's recovering. Yeah, exactly. Where he's trying to get back to normal, trying to find a way to recover, but he hasn't fully recovered yet from both of these incidents. And now he's finally at a point, where, okay, I know I lost a bunch of time, but now we can go back to where we were. Oh, wait, guys, no, come back. Wait, stop. No.
Right. I'm not ready to start dating yet, and like they all are, and so like
Yeah.
they've all moved on without him, and it kind of stinks for him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
Speaking of Joyce, I specifically noted in like the second episode when like the magnets start falling down, it's like not a thing can go on in this town without it affecting Joyce Byers
She will know.
personally.
She will
She
find
will
out.
know. It's just
Yep.
like I'm surprised this woman hasn't gone full Sarah Connor or whatever, bought every single gun in a 5-mile radius, and it just sits at her home. Is like, all right, what's next? Where is it? Come on, what's going on? And it's just, oh god, that poor lady. This poor family, honestly. Everybody except Jonathan at this point is like, I mean, Jonathan's probably the happiest Byers of them all, and
Which is saying something.
Yeah, and he's got Nancy, and that's good, but he's like dead in photography job, but he's just like, yeah, it's pretty good.
Well, it's funny because with going back to Joyce, she's always the one who's like always asking the same question each season. It's like whatever her question is, that is like her thing, and that is her character for the entire season. So season 1, her question is, "Where is my boy?" Season 2, her question is, "What is wrong with my boy?" And season 3, her question is, "What is wrong with my magnets?"
Yeah. I do love the scene where she's sitting in Murray's bunker or whatever with what did his name's Alexei, but I was trying to think of what Hopper called him. Hopper gave him a silly nickname.
Smirnoff.
Yeah, she's like holding up magnets, and she's like sticking them together and saying, magnets, why are they not working?
Did you do this? Magnet, yes.
Like, yes, lady, we came all the way to Indiana just to mess with your fridge magnets. Oh man.
Speaking of characters who are just get put down so much, I swear you do not need to be a likable or a comfort character or whatever you call it in Stranger Things, because you might as well assign your own death sentence. Just we got Bob, we got Alexei. Who was it in?
Billy wasn't likable.
No. It's what is it? Bob and Alexei.
Oh, you're talking about the Russian guy, the scientist.
Yeah, the Russian guy. Who's like,
is it Zelensky? Is that his name?
Let's go with Smirnoff. Let's go.
Yeah,
sure.
His first name is definitely Alexei, so we can call him that if we want.
Alexei, that's what it was. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like I feel like, at least to me, it just sort of became like, oh yeah, this guy's joined the crew or whatever, or like not joined the crew. It's just sort of like, I mean that last bit before before the Terminator offs him, he's like talking to Murray. It's like, okay, I do this and then I become American, and it's like, oh that's nice. That would be interesting, and then boom, he's gone. They got him. They got him.
You should have known, right? You should have known when he's saying all those sorts of things about how great it'll be to be an American, that they're telegraphing the fact that he's going to die. It's like, okay, we're twisting the knife here, kids.
Yeah.
It's again, it's like the closet thing with Bob all over again. It's like, oh, he got out. No, he didn't.
Yeah, right.
They
let you get excited, just smash you down into the ground. Yep.
The Duffer Brothers waiting around the corner with that bat yet again, and we keep falling for it.
Yeah.
You are not wrong.
Well, speaking of characters that die, I mentioned briefly, Billy I thought was great this season. Just the actor, maybe not Billy as a character because he was mainly possessed for the whole season, but his Dacre Montgomery, I believe is the actor's name, his portrayal of Billy being possessed and all that, and sort of being that vessel for the Mind Flayer for most of season 3. Thought he did a great job, and he really got a chance to shine this season, whereas in season 2 he was mainly a side character who was in a couple episodes here. Really got to shine, even if it was as the antagonist, and I thought he was excellent.
Yeah.
It's always tough having to do two characters at once, because again, he pretty much is the closest thing to, I mean, the Mind Flayer as a character as it can get, and then then having to be himself as well. Again, sort of like with Steve last season, I was surprised that he got as much depth as I mean, of course, kind of got to be, like you said, he's the antagonist now, but I'm surprised he got as much good depth in this season. It's just like, yeah, I really enjoyed it too.
I mean, L literally goes into his head, right? To try to, like, in order, they have a specific reason. We're going to find out where the base is, but like you see a lot of stuff and you're like, oh, okay, I understand why Billy is the way he is. It doesn't excuse his behavior, but you understand why, right?
Of course.
Which always helps to do that to a character.
Right.
Especially antagonists.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I thought this season did something similar to the season 2. I don't know if you guys noticed this. And possibly, I'll be curious to hear you guys think season 4 might do this too, where what they've started to do since season 1 is they will take a few episodes to really just have the characters interact and basically for us to sort of catch up and see what the characters have been up to. They'll take like the first 2 or 3 and they'll sort of hint at what's coming in the season, but mainly the season, or at least those first like 3 episodes, that's them interacting, catching up. We get to see some humor, like we get to see Hopper struggling as a parent in the first few episodes. That's a lot of fun. And then it's around like episode 4 or 5 that the action really kicks in. We kick it back into high gear. Some people, would say that the first 2 episodes are slow, but in my opinion, since we like the characters, I haven't minded that they've used sort of the first 2 episodes of these seasons have been lighter. I don't know if you guys have noticed that or had any thoughts there.
I have noticed that. I like it. I agree. Because we like the characters, it's good. Because then it's like, oh, here's an old friend that you haven't gotten to talk to in a while. So I'm going to catch up with them, see what's going on with their life, find out if they had any possessed rat monsters try to attack them in the past year. Just the normal things you do when you're chatting with a friend, right? And then you get the little bit of tension sprinkled in of, oh, there's this new problem they have to deal with, right? So you never are fully comfortable because you know that they are going to have to deal with something grotesque and horrifying again.
Yeah.
But you can at least be not, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a word other than comfortable. Like,
I mean, they ease you into it.
Yeah. It's like, you don't just get on the roller coaster and they launch you up the highest peak and then drop you down, right? They let you go up a couple little hills to kind of give you a feel for what's going on.
Yeah. They do a good job at building it up.
Good amount of time to establish status quo.
Yeah.
Yep.
Speaking of grotesque, I know we're doing like speaking of this, speaking of that, but it's like can we talk about the Mind Flayer? I want to talk about the Mind Flayer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Actually, yes. You go first.
Yes, I really like the fact that, well, at first I thought because this, I thought, of course, again, the hindsight of watching it 3 years, but it's like if they wanted this to be the end season, they very well could have, because it's like we got one of the elements is like, yes, a return villain, except he's bigger and badder now or whatever. It's like I really did not expect them to go full John Carpenter's The Thing. Like that was kind of out of left field, but in a very good way, because it looks, again, it's things you can say with context, but without context you get put in a mental asylum for it. What is it? The disintegrating like rats and stuff look really good.
Yes, those are beautifully disintegrated rats.
I never said beautifully, but it's like you can tell, again, is the Duffer Brothers are very much practical folks, but with this one, I think they've been using the same visual effects people the whole time they've been working, even with like all the extra Netflix money and all that. And again, speaking of Netflix money, again, escalation in terms of sets, in terms
the
of
production
effects.
design this season was ridiculous. Like even you take something like the Starcourt Mall, looks very well done.
Filmed on location in an old mall, amazing.
Yeah. I mean, that definitely helps, but also like there's an element of are they showing off a little bit, both with the mall and with the Mind Flayer. But one of my favorite, not like this is something that I really like, but one of the best types of monsters to have in any kind of horror thing is the monster that is a body made up of other bodies. I think that's one of the most effective. Like, if you want to make something really grotesque, right? You want to make people immediately understand how threatening and disgusting this thing is. That's an excellent way to do it for obvious reasons, right? I don't think I need to explain why a bunch of bone pieces grating against each other randomly with the muscles pulling and the flesh goo oozing everywhere. I don't think I need to explain why that's uncomfortable. But so I love the idea of having that that style of monster in the show, because I think that, like I said, it's one of my favorite in the terms of, I think it's one of the most grotesque and effective horror monsters. And then I do think it's I don't know if it's a natural escalation per se, but like, we went from one Demigorgon, right? That was a problem. It was only a problem until you got the Demigorgon and Elle in the same room, and then you're like, oh, okay, this actually wasn't a threat the entire time.
Right.
We had the solution all along. And then we get, dozens of
demidogs or whatever they're called.
Yeah, demidogs and the Vine thing and Will, but you're really none of those things on their own is really a problem. It's the fact that they're controlled by this shadowy figure behind the scenes, right? Mm-hmm. The actual problem is the connection to the Upside Down. And then season 3, we're like, okay, it's the shadowy creature's like, all right, enough of this. I'm just going to, fine, I'll do it myself, right?
Right. Yeah, and so even talking about the build up with seasons, even this season there was a build up, which I appreciated, because you have, they're slowly, the rats are coming apart and it's slowly starting to form, slowly starting to take over all these different humans and use those as vessels. And then we get, I can't remember what episode it is, but we get just 2 of the bodies, those vessels, turning into mush and forming. We get that really cool hospital scene, which I might have even liked.
Oh yeah, Jake Busey, and what is it? The other jerk reporter or whatever.
Right, and so it's like we get those. I might have even liked that scene more than the finale, even though I thought the finale was good. But that was just very well done, terrifying. It's like, just those 2 form together to make this mini mind flayer monster thing, and then obviously we get all of the vessels forming for the giant monster at the end. But that build I thought was very well done. And just like you were saying, getting to see the Mind Flayer in full form and in partial form looked great and was very well done.
Mm-hmm. And it is funny that there's the most grotesque inhuman thing we've seen so far paired with the most human antagonist we've had so far, or at least the most active human antagonist in the form of Billy, I suppose. Because, we got Dr. What's-His-Face from the first one and, all that.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, technically he's an antagonist, but he's very secondary to everything else going on, right? He's just the impetus for the problems, not actually the real problem.
Yeah.
Whereas,
I will say, I mean, I didn't love the Russians as the main season 3 antagonists. I personally find the Upside Down and its characters way more compelling, but I get why they're there, just because obviously it's an 80s show, and in every other 80s thing, the Russians are the bad guys, so they had to throw them in there at some point. So I get why they're there, and I thought they were fine.
Yeah, I mean, we get Alexi out of it, right?
So we get Alexi. There you go.
Yeah, there's that, and borrowing more from like the 80s stuff. I suppose we started going with like early 80s where things were just starting to get, I don't know, a little showy. I don't know. There's a better word for it. But then, I feel like they just went full on, all right, let's go. Let's 80s with reckless abandon. Let's go full on, just full colorful, full in your face, jazzercise, eyes, everything is just like, and I suppose, I don't know. I don't know if that's, of course it was intentional, but I don't know if that was intentional because, hey, what is it? Marketing said these guys like the 80s, throw as much. Why don't we have it take place in a mall or something? And they're just like, okay, maybe we can fit this into our story somehow. I don't know.
Yeah.
But then it's just like, I wonder how intentional it was, because it seemed a little excessive. Which again, I suppose it's the 80s. That's the point. But I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, they literally run into a movie theater and watch probably 5 to 10 minutes of Back to the Future.
Oh
Right?
yeah.
During this show, there's several scenes of Back to the Future on screen in a movie theater, right? Like,
Right.
that's a kind of indulgent, I think.
That
Just
was
a little
that
bit.
was a that was a whole episode of season 1's budget just spent on those royalties.
Yeah, yep. Although we do get a funny scene after that where we have stoned
Steve and Robin.
Robin trying
Yeah.
to understand the plot of the movie. Which is
No, there's no way he was. No,
Yeah, that was pretty funny. I can't remember if I don't think we talked about it yet. I do still blame Susie, who we find out is actually Dustin actually has a girlfriend. He wasn't faking it. So we do see her at the end. I do blame her for Hopper, quote unquote, dying at the end of season 3. If she just given Dustin that stupid formula before having to sing the song, they would have made it out in time, I think, pretty easily. With time to spare, but nope, they had to sing the stupid song. And it's one of those where I'm all for a stupid cliche song here and there, but if it is going to, ruin the plot and like cause people to be in danger, that's when it's like, okay, not the place.
Yeah, well, I'm okay with like 5 to 10 seconds of a little bit of a song.
Right.
If you have a character who in character it's known that they like to sing randomly, I'm fine with that.
Sure.
I'm not okay with if a full minute to 1 to 2 minutes of singing this entire song that eats a lot of showtime and
Right.
it negatively affects the plot. Like, what? It's so that. And I 100% agree. Confirmed. Susie killed Hopper.
Yep. Susie I want that on a shirt.
Susie killed Hopper. Yeah.
It's Hopper lives, and then on the back, Susie killed Hopper.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a stupid moment. Every show's got to have one, and it's just you get one. Don't waste it.
I don't even know that every show has a least good moment. I don't know that it doesn't need to intentionally make its least good moment bad. Right?
That was deep, man.
Yeah. Although talking about Susie does segue, because we keep talking about segues, it does segue into what do you guys think of the new characters? Because there's only one new character. I guess Alexi's like, he's fine.
So he's a good side character, yeah.
Well, they're new characters, and side characters become more main characters. Is basically what the season does.
Both of those categories, then.
So one character who I already liked in season 2, and I love that he's been becoming more and more of a main character. I've loved Murray and his interactions with the characters. He has just been a blast of a character, and I'm so glad that he's been able to get a more prominent role because he's hilarious and he's a very fun character, and he's very fun to see interact and basically I don't know if ship's the right word, but basically set up relationships with different characters.
He Freuds his way into the characters' minds.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
What is it? When they're in the what is it, the Todd Mobile or whatever it's called, and he's just in the back like psychoanalyzing the two of them, and Hopper's just like, whoa, what it's like that's some grade A performance right there. And this is gonna lead into what I was gonna bring up. Was like it's just like something straight out of like like an 80s rom-com or something. Like what is it? It's not the same guy who made Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I can't remember.
John Hughes?
Yes, Hughes. I don't know. It seemed a little Hughes-ish to me, in a good way, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I mean, what were you gonna say, Joseph?
Oh, nothing. That was just going to lead into like a little thing I've been thinking about for each season that I think we might have talked about a little bit, but we're gonna go into it a little more in depth, I suppose. But you go ahead and finish up.
Okay, I was going to say, if we're going about side characters, so that's a character I really like. Going on the other end of character I did not like. Don't really care for Erica like
Yeah.
at all.
Mm.
And so she was a character who I already, just the brief moments we get of her in season 2, I already didn't like her. And so the Duffers, I don't know who it was, somehow got the message that we need more of her, and we did not. And so any scene she was in just sort of dragged the scene down very, very low on my list of favorite scenes. And somehow, I mean, I think I like Dustin anyway, but anytime she was in a scene with Dustin, she made Dustin seem much more mature than he actually was. And I don't think it's because she's mature. It's just she was that annoying and that much of a child. And I know she was a child, but still, come on.
Yeah, you could write. I mean, all of the other characters who were children were written to not be annoying before that,
right?
Mm-hmm. Where she was fine as, you know, the bratty little sister. She's there in a couple scenes, in a couple of the earlier seasons, right? And you're like, okay, bratty little sister makes sense. Lucas has a bratty sister, whatever. But she's kind of in the same point of like, she's a worse version of Susie, right? It's like Susie is obtrusively in the middle of the last episode,
right?
For no real reason other than paying off the Chekhov's gun of that she was talked about in the first episode, right? Mm-hmm. But then Erica's even worse of a version of that, where she's obstructing them almost at every step. She's obstructing the mall gang, that trio, almost at every step of like, oh, yeah, well, we need you to get into the air vent so you can get us information here. It's like, oh, well, you're going to need to hop through these 15 hoops in order for me to do that. And then he's like, okay, well, now we're in this part, and she's going to start like trying to break open a glass of glowing green goo so she can drink it. Like, what?
Yeah.
What? Oh man, there's so many of those things.
Right. No, that's the thing. I think the two of them are, in the end, they're joke characters. It's not like their character's a joke. No, it's like they're literally there to either deliver jokes or to be jokes, because what is it? Susie's the punchline of a season-long running gag. And it's I don't know if that's funny, or if it's just like, oh man, well, you know, like it was funny when it first happened, but then it overstayed its welcome very quick. The joke, not her.
Mm-hmm. I love brick jokes. You set up a joke at the start of the first episode of a season, and then you deliver the punchline of the joke in the last episode of the season. Great, good stuff.
Yep.
Deliver the punchline and then leave. Right, like.
Don't sing a song about the punchline.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's exactly right.
Guys, it's funny.
Not for 2 minutes. It's not.
Yeah, not for as long as it lasted. It's like, yeah, that was funny. Oh, you're still doing this. Stop, please. No.
Yeah, unfortunately, this season, Murray, I feel like, is the exception when it comes to newer characters that were good. It's like most of the newer characters either were not good or meh. Like Robin's one of those. It was like meh, didn't really care.
I liked Robin. I thought she was cool.
I liked Robin pretty good.
I liked her dynamic with Steve. I thought them ragging on each other a little bit was fun. Steve needed someone who was about his age that wasn't the Nancy Jonathan duo.
Sure. No, I thought she was fine. It's just I didn't necessarily love her. I thought Murray was a much better, newer character.
Not the standout amongst the
comparatively,
group.
Yeah, comparatively.
Okay,
that's fair. I'll give you that.
Her dynamic with Steve, yes, I did like. That is fair. I like their friendship. I feel like that's probably most of the side characters at this point.
Yeah, it's funny that nearly all these side characters get just about as much, if not more, screen time than our regular crowd. It's almost like, I don't know, they didn't have too much for them to do other than, oh man, it's the summer of love or whatever. I don't know. And then it's like, all right, we don't got too much here. All right, what are these other ideas we want to do? And then they just throw all these other side characters in, which is fun.
Yeah, I think because we talked a little bit about how it can feel slow for some people maybe at the beginning of the season, and it's not that bad because you get to see characters that you like, right, interacting with each other, and also get to have them interact with new characters. But there is this feeling of, I wonder if they're filling space. They're like, okay, we need to hit our 8 episode or 9 episode, I can't remember how many. They need to hit our our certain number of episode count, right?
Yeah.
And then some of the time is spent filling space by just having characters interact with each other. And sometimes it's in a humorous way, that's just they're telling jokes. Sometimes
Yeah.
it is actually relevant to their personalities,
Right.
Like where these two characters have interesting ideas to bring up with each other and they're talking them through. But I wonder if it can be done better, if it could be done in a more streamlined manner, which I'm just now thinking of that as maybe a potential problem with this, where it's dragging on because they don't have enough story, they don't have enough plot, so they're filling it in with just like these little filler banter things.
Right. Well, that makes me think, because I was looking at the runtimes for the episodes coming up for season 4, and I think every single one of them, it comes in at over an hour. And my thought is a lot of that has to do with the fact that they got to fill time for all of these characters plus new ones they're introducing. So I guess my question for you guys is, obviously, I don't think they're going. I think the best solution would be to stop introducing new characters, especially since they have. But since they're not going to do that, do you think the best way for them to still have, for us to still see the characters from the early seasons grow, as well as them keep introducing new characters, is the best way for them to do that well? Is that to kill off characters? Is for them to stop? Maybe, have some characters move away and just make them no longer part of this story? Because they're trying, something I do appreciate is they're trying to, they haven't killed off the characters because obviously you don't want characters to die. They are still trying to have all the characters we liked from the original show there and give us screen time with them, which I do appreciate. But it's also, you're realizing there's so many characters now and so many, characters that need screen time and all of that. It's like, at this point, to tell a good story and not just give characters screen time, is it best for them to get killed off, for characters to move away? I'm just curious. I'm pretty much just repeating myself at this point, but it's just, just thinking out loud. Curious if you guys have any thoughts there, because they're really stretching here. Sorry, what was that, Joseph?
Oh, I said, yeah, something's got to give. You're right. And I think it might be, was it, look at Nancy, what at the end of this season, she was going off to college. Was that it? And like, that's the perfect, like, I would say that's the perfect way out for some of them. But the problem is, I understand why it's happening, because I don't understand, because I don't work in Hollywood or whatever, but I can take a good guess and say, what is it? The Duffer Brothers have worked with these guys for literally years on this project, and these guys are acting their butts off, and most of them are putting in like grade A performances. I haven't seen any non-grade A performances, but it's like,
Erica.
it's not
a bad performance.
Non-A and
sure, just bad characters. Fair, but keep going.
It's like, how, from their perspective, it's like, okay, listen, we do want to tell a good story, but how do we tell fan favorite / our good friend, insert actor and actress name here, hey, sorry, we don't have anything for you. Hey, sorry, you're just not really relevant this season. I'll see you next time. And it's like, I understand that's probably why they're having so many. Of course, adding new characters is, of course, to keep engagement up, I suppose. Oh, got to have those new favorites or whatever. But in terms of eventually having to cycle out new characters, I wouldn't say kill them, because it's like, again, I don't know if that would cause like bad blood amongst, I don't know, the actors or whatever, because it's like, oh, yep, you cut me out in season 3, and then you went on to have like 4 other seasons. But it's like, I would say that since they're getting older, there's a lot of good stepping off points for them. There's a good one for Jonathan. There's a good one for Nancy. Eventually, I think Steve's gonna stick around, because I think he's got a lot of unresolved stuff there. Just he doesn't know what he wants to do with his life, and he thinks at this point he's a loser or something. And I don't know. That's probably changed in season 4 or whatever. But then what is it? Then you got the buyers moving away. But the problem is that's not going to be the end of them, because you got 11 going with them, and it's just like, we can't get rid of them. But then it's just like, well, maybe you do just have a couple of them move away or something. Maybe, but. I don't know. It's tough, because they're. Oh, go ahead, Joe.
Well, this is one of the problems with movie cinematography as a medium, right? Like if I'm writing a book, I can say, okay, here are the 5 characters I'm following in book 1,
Yep.
and then 3 of them I think their arcs are resolved, and so I can say, okay, they do other things, and then in book 2, the 2 characters I still need, and then you bring in, I don't know, 4 new characters maybe, right? And then you can have these characters cycle because you as the author can pick them up whatever you want. But when you're working with real people on a real film crew, right, with a real production team, and you have to have real actors playing these characters, you can't just say, hey, person who plays this character, why don't you just go ahead and take a year-long break from this project and go find something else to do.
Day.
Yeah, it was like you can't do that.
Yeah.
And so I understand that problem. And so the flip side of that is, okay, we can't shelve characters indefinitely until we need them to be brought back for the story. So don't add in new characters. Write characters who can carry the show themselves, so we can get invested in this small set of characters, and you can have little one-off characters that are there for a couple episodes and then go away, right? Just because they're interesting for that time, right? And then write your characters such that they can carry your entire show. That's the solution, right?
And just what stinks is I feel like we do have characters that totally could, because they pretty much did through seasons 1 and 2, and now with season 3 and then season 4, it's like, no, we feel the need to give you even more characters who, while they might get a good scene or two, probably some good lines, and again, like Joseph was saying, good performances, you're stretching a bunch of really good performances so thin that they're barely having time to give any good performances.
They're almost turning into vignettes. Like,
yeah.
Like all the episodes are almost turning into like little
highlight reels,
highlight reels, or like an anthology series almost. Which, I mean, I haven't seen season 4, but I do wonder if they've gone more towards that, which I could feel that could work. Not anthology wise, like, oh, each season's just forget the other characters, we focus on the. No, that's not what I mean. But it's like, every season we've had different plot lines, and at the last 3 episodes they all come together, or last 2 episodes they all come together, and there's a big moment, and the gang's all here, and it's like, I don't know how many times you can do that, and it's not that's I don't know.
Unfortunately, they don't have enough episodes to do it. It makes more sense with a show that has like 20 episodes or something, but if they had that amount of time, they could approach it like a lot of books do these days, where each episode is dedicated to a specific character or set of characters. You really focus on them for an episode. Next episode is these characters, next episode is these, and then by episode 4 or something, they're all together, and it's all of them kind of thing.
Yeah, if you had, instead of 9 episodes, if you had like 21 episodes that were significantly shorter, you can have 4 teams. Each of them gets 5 episodes that are their own episode, and they cycle, right? They go each of episodes 1, 2, 3, 4 are the starts of the 4 teams' arcs, right? And then you cycle, and then the 21st episode is bring them all together. So it's 5 episodes with each of the teams, bring them all together at the end. But if you're doing that, then you need to write maybe 20 to 30 minute episodes as opposed to 40 an hour long episodes.
And then that's tough, because I mean, shoot, when you've struck gold twice before, how are you going to change it? And of course that format would work if they're going to keep with a lot of new characters, but I mean, if they're not going to do that, that's fine. It's either they're either going to do that, and I suppose they kind of are, because this was like the standard season 4. We're talking a lot about season 4 now. All of a sudden, season 4 is like just the standard one with these like what is it? They are hour-long episodes, but it's like the same amount of episodes. And then what is it? The last one's going to be released in July, so it's just like they are trying to get this. I suppose, I don't know if they're trying to have their cake and eat it too, because I mean, I haven't seen it, or if they are still introducing all these new characters and they're trying to get them as much time as they can without realizing, eventually we're just going to have too much. But then again, they might be good enough that they completely circumvent that. And it's just like, we got them all. It's, it's we're the best around. Who knows?
I mean,
right now I'm starting to see signs.
Right.
But it's not too much of a distraction, I suppose.
Right. I am thankful that they, at least from what they're saying right now, season 5 is the end. Because at that point, they have enough time where they, even if they want to add a new character here or there, that is a short enough amount of time, I think, where they can still squeeze through and give us something good. Versus you have too many characters and it's before it gets stretched way too thin. I feel like it's already stretched pretty thin. That ending in season 5, I think, should be a good enough time, assuming they keep the same character, same story, assuming they still have all that. Character-wise, I think they hopefully will end before it gets stretched too thin and it snaps. That's the hope. So we'll see. It's not like we have a 10-season layout. It's like, nope, not going to happen. At that point, you're screwed.
We're done here.
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely season 3. I would say you're kind of wrapping things up. I think.
Yep.
Season 3 holds up, but it's showing the seams. Right, the seams are showing, and you're seeing the tension there of like, okay, are we going to be able to land this plane or not? And maybe they go. I hope so. I definitely hope they do. But we
certainly hope so. This isn't something I want to see crash and burn. All right, now there is one more thing before we go on to number ratings for this season. It's kind of not really a game. I couldn't really come up with a game for this, and it's pretty good because any game I try to come up with will be a disservice. I've kind of noticed that, I suppose, the inspirations for each one of these seasons, I mean, obviously there's piles upon piles considering the Duffers love of the 80s, but I feel like each season can be distilled down to 2 big movies, and I'm just going to stick with movies because that's kind of our bread and butter here, movies and shows or whatever, but each season can be distilled down to 2 movies that the season draws its main inspiration from. And we did talk about it in the first episode. I don't know if we talked about it in the second, but now we're just going to go through all of them. And, I kind of want to know, what 2 films do you guys think were the big bases for season 3? We can do the other seasons if you want, but I don't know how we are on time. Let's just do this one. Let's just do season 3. I've got my 2, and they might match up, but I don't know. Just, kind of want to hear your guys' opinions.
I
mean, you can go, Joe.
Yeah, we definitely saw. I would think we saw some Thing influence, right, from the grossness of the Mind Flayer, right, the way it's designed, and also the impersonation element, right. So there's both the design of like what the Thing looks like when it's morphing, and also the impersonation element. So I think that's definitely a strong influence. I don't know, Jack. Do you have a second?
I mean, the Thing was a big one. I mean, but the Thing is sort of similar to something like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So similar concept there. With the Russians, my thought was Red Dawn. But, I mean, they're not... I mean, there's other films with, the Russian bad guys. So I'm trying to think of what really sticks out.
Was the Manchurian Candidate 80s or 70s?
I'm not sure.
I was going to say, it's like, it also there was also some influences in like the big conspiracy films of like, that, like it's been a while since I've seen the Manchurian Candidate, so I might be completely botching it, but just sort of like this, oh man, there's a conspiracy and it goes all the way to the top because, there's the whole thing of, oh, the Russians are buying up land and they got the mayor in their pocket and, all that stuff.
The Manchurian, you mean the Denzel Washington film?
Oh, what now?
There's a 2004 movie and there's a 1962 movie.
Yeah, 60s. That's right. Well, I was thinking of the 60s Manchurian Candidate, not the Denzel Washington. There was a Denzel Washington one.
Apparently.
Well, yeah. Neo-noir. Oh, well, political thriller. That's what it is. Like the political thriller genre. There was a little more of that. And what is it? They even reference it with everyone's favorite character, Erica. It's like, oh, yes, you're politically savvy. You're the most politically savvy 10-year-old I've ever seen. Wow.
Yeah.
But the Thing, we talked about like the Hughes. You say Hughes?
John Hughes.
Yeah, John Hughes-ish films, the rom-coms like that.
Yeah, so like your 16 Candles, your Pretty in Pink, something like that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Did he do Fast Times at Ridgemont High?
No.
Hmm.
I forgot who
I
did that one.
suppose
I
it's
know
the
that wasn't
same
him.
vein. But yeah, I suppose it's like there's the wrap up, there's the big influences. I can't wait to see what the ones are for season 4. Jack, don't you dare say a word. I'm
Okay.
gonna figure out for myself.
As you
Well,
should.
oh yes, good. You know what? How about I start us out with our ratings here. Out of 10, I would give Stranger Things season 3 a 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10.
Yep.
Pretty good. Again, like we've kind of already said, seams are kind of showing. There's a little things that kind of not detract, but I suppose distract would be a good one rather than detract, because it's just a minor inconvenience, and it's just like, it didn't sour my mood on the season on these little moments. But yeah, overall, still some of the good stuff. I just hope they can the Du Bois can keep it up.
Yep. I would go exactly. I think we did season 1 is a 9, season 2 is an 8, and season 3 is a 7. So we're just which is unfortunate. You know, we're decreasing in quality each time, but I think that's pretty much where I'm at. It's still worth a watch. If this was its own show all by itself, well, you wouldn't have all the backstory of all the characters, right? So never mind.
Yeah.
I don't know if it works. Like it would be great if you weren't comparing it to the previous seasons of Stranger Things.
The plight of the threequel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably give it similar, either somewhere between like an 8 and a 7, because still really liked it, still had a lot of fun, because again, it's still those characters we've grown to love. But like you guys said, the seams are starting to get a little bit bigger, and the cracks in the show are starting to show.
In reality.
Exactly.
Yeah. The upside down is bleeding through.
Yep.
Oh no.
Corrupting everything.
Exactly.
Also, I would like to retroactively go back and make season 2 I don't know if I said it was an 8 or a 9 for me, but just I don't know if it's good or bad, but upon watching this, it's just like, man, season 2 really was good. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna retroactively make that a 10.
Fair.
Nice.
Well, I think that might be all for us today. Yeah. Well, let's see. What's next week now, Jack?
I believe we were doing the Jurassic World trilogy with, I think we're getting a special guest for that one too.
Oh boy, that'll be fun.
The dinosaurs. They're back again. Oh
They're
no.
back and bigger than ever, and even more dangerous and impressive. Be afraid.
Why do they keep getting bigger? Well, anyway, this has been another episode of Background Noise. If you've been listening, well, good on you. But if you've not, well, I suppose you haven't missed much. Goodbye.